All right, let's talk about it. The utterly worst part of travel nursing. It might not be what you think.
Toma.
I appreciate it. All right, bye. Welcome back, everybody. My name's John. This is No Ordinary Path. If you're a first timer here, I am a travel nurse. I work in the ICU. I travel around the United States with my family of 5 in an RV that we call Windy. Today is a Real Talk Tuesday. It is a travel nurse takeover. So we're here today to talk about the worst part of travel nursing. And like I said, it may not be what you think. It's not COVID. It's not the schedule. It's none of that stuff. It's the double-edged sword of making great money that's tax-free and then trying to get a loan on something significant. We're in the process of trying to purchase a house here in Phoenix, Arizona. No, we're not going to stop traveling. This is just something where we want to establish a new home base. And we're pretty excited about it. We did know all about this kind of stuff going into it from the very get-go. This was something I read and heard about from other travel nurses that, yes, you can make a lot of money that's tax-free, but when it comes time to get that loan, it can be kind of complicated because of that tax-free money. When we first got started, we sold everything. That's what everybody told us to do. Hit the road, sell it all, get rid of it. And we totally drank that Kool-Aid. And I don't regret it at all, but looking back on it in hindsight now, we would tell you, don't sell your house. Keep your house. Keep it as a place to fall back on and continue to use it if you can. Even knowing this, there might be instances where you just can't get started and chase this dream without selling everything. And to be honest, that's where we were. We were at that point that in order to have Windy and purchase new vehicles and stuff like that, we did need the equity from the home. So we sold it, did what we had to, still no regrets. And if that's you, don't let it hold you back. But if you're looking to get into things and planning, I would say look at trying to keep your house that you're in currently. Jumping right into the process for us, we talked to 6 different lenders, and it took 6 different lenders to get something nailed down. They all asked for different things. Some said that the tax-free stipends could count. Some said that they couldn't count. Some flat out told us that there was no way that they would count and we had to write them off immediately. And some said that they would also do a portion of them. One thing that they all had in common is that they all said that this would not be an automatic underwriting process. It would always require manual underwriting because of the nature of the beast. What did they ask for? Well, they wanted W-2s. Everyone wanted W-2s, which can get interesting if you're a travel nurse and take multiple contracts with multiple different agencies all year long. They also wanted the end of the year pay stubs for those different jobs, which again, if you're like me and you work with one agency, that's not too bad to do. But if you work with 3 or 4 different agencies, that could be a lot of paycheck stubs, especially those of them that wanted up to 3 years worth of those. They did want the contract, the current nursing contract that I was working on. They did never ask for previous ones though, which was kind of nice if you don't keep all those things. I suggest that you do though. They also wanted verification of employment. Now that could be a letter that I had Atlas write up, or it could be a special type of form. There was some confusion about who I actually worked for because I don't work for the hospital that I'm on contract for. I'm an employee contracted with said nursing agency, and that was a little confusing at first. Speaking of the confusion, let's jump into some more of that type of stuff. Let's talk about what makes this process so confusing. Right off the bat, if you work with a bunch of different agencies, then you're going to have a lot of different W-2s and a lot of different year-end pay stubs. And also, that doesn't really show your true gross income, again, because of the stipends. So even though you send these things to these different lenders, if they've never worked with travel nurses before, it's difficult for them to understand how to go back in and add back in those different levels of stipends to see what your actual true gross income is for the year. Another thing that was kind of a surprise to me was that the wording of the contract matters. I sent him the current contract that I'm on here at Banner in Phoenix, and it is from Atlas titled work order. Instead, it doesn't use the actual verbiage of a contract. And one of the underwriters that we were working with did not like that at all. They said, no, this is just a work order. It's not a contract. Well, it's the contract. That's the contract. I'm the contractee. Like, that's what I signed. This is what it looks like. Yeah, but it's just a work order. No, it's a contract, man. I thought you said you work with travel nurses. But that's another thing. The verification of employment comes from the agency. Keep that in mind. It's not the current hospital that you're working with. Don't confuse that, because what happens is if you say that it's the current hospital that you're working with, then they get the W-2s and stuff that don't have that hospital listed anywhere. It's the agency that you're working for at that particular time for that particular contract. You may have worked with other agencies in the past and you can still get employment verification from them, but primarily it all focuses on the one that you're currently on contract with if you're on contract. So for example, for me, Atlas was nice enough to write up a letter that said, I have been working with them since November of 2018. I make a salary rate per hour of this much that was based on the current contract that I'm on right now. I work 36 hours a week. I am in good standing with the company and expected to continue employment, and that if there was any other help that they could call HR, something like that. It was just a typed up letter that showed those things, and some of those lenders took that, and that was all they needed. One thing that was also helpful is that because of the way that was written, it was definitely helpful to apply for this while I was working on a contract that's paying more than, say, like what we got when we were in Alaska. It just worked out that way better for us. So if you're on contract and you're thinking about applying for a big loan for something, maybe do it while you're on a big paying contract. Came right down to it, the most difficult thing and most frustrating thing on my part was trying to calculate the stipends for these guys. I would call them up and say, hey, I'm a travel nurse. Have you ever worked with travel nurses before? We're kind of complicated. Oh yeah, we totally do that. It was like sales. That's just what it felt like to me. I was talking to a salesman. Yeah, I totally have worked with travel nurses in the past. No big deal. So I'd send them my stuff, and then they'd come back and say, hey, you only make like X amount of dollars and you're applying for how much of a loan? I said, no, man, I actually make more than that. You need to add the stipends back in. What are the stipends? Well, I thought you worked with travel nurses before. Stipend calculations and the way that they did it was different for different lenders too. So sometimes after I gave them my year-end paychecks and showed them how to add the stipends back in to get my true gross income, that was all they needed. And it came down to me like using Adobe to circle the little numbers and just said, this is how you calculate it. Others would take those things and they would say, okay, we can use your per diems and your travel and that kind of stuff, but we can't use your housing because your housing is, for reimbursement expenses, and we can't use that. Another lender said the exact opposite. Well, we can use your housing, but we can't use your per diems. It just depends. Keep in mind too that right now, especially with all of the rates going up and stuff because of COVID, that the housing stipends are not really a true duplication. Most travel nurses are not spending that much on their housing, regardless of its Airbnb, RV parks, whatever. So it's not really a true duplication, and that was kind of hard to get through to them sometimes. If you're in this part of your life and you're like us and looking to apply for a large loan, whether it's a mortgage or maybe it's a big auto loan or a car loan or an RV loan, who knows? Here's some of our suggestions. Be prepared to talk to multiple lenders. This is not just John and Kristen's suggestions or No Ordinary Path suggestions. I went on to different travel nursing forums and looked it up myself. What are people doing out there to try to get this stuff done, right? The number one was talk to multiple lenders. I would say make a list of 10 that you're willing to work with and give them all a call within that 42, 45 day window, whatever it is, before, so it doesn't hurt your credit after that first initial hard pull. It took us 6. Somebody suggested to try to use a credit union, that they may be easier to work with. We did not try that, but it's probably a good idea to give it a shot. One of the ones that we did find helpful was to use a brokerage firm that works with multiple lenders. The brokerage group was one that said that they would automatically count a portion of the stipend. Try a lender that you have worked with in the past or have a current relationship with in maybe another loan or something like that. Ultimately, that's what we did and has worked with us so far. Try to make big purchases before you hit the road, like cars, stuff like that. We did purchase 2 vehicles while on the road, but it was not necessarily easy. One big suggestion that is helpful and actually even helped us a little bit is to take taxed contracts so that your W-2s do show a higher wage amount. We took one with Fast Staff, which is U.S. nursing, and that one was taxed. It showed a higher wage amount. So if you're looking or know that this is going to be something you do within like the next year or something, maybe take a couple of those contracts to make this whole process way easier on yourself. Final point would be to just keep trying. Just keep swimming, you guys. It will happen. You just have to slog through it, call multiple places. Don't let the first one or two or four get you down. Keep trying. That was our thing. I talked to so many people. One other bit of advice is they all do ask for the same thing, although they look for it kind of differently. So I created a folder that's got all the W-2s in it, all the year-end things, all the tax statements, the employment verification letter, all that stuff, after having talked to about 3 of them at a time. So now if I was to do it again, all I would do is just send that entire folder's contents in one email or one secure messaging to that next lender all at once. Have that ready beforehand because you know they're going to ask for it. The process of getting a pre-approval letter is really simple, almost too simple, and can kind of be dangerous because especially in a state like Arizona that just goes on, stated income, there was no underwriting process. All I had to do was type in a couple of things and then boom, I have a letter that says I'm pre-approved for X amount of dollars that I can take, with me to go house hunt with. That was not what I wanted to do. I wanted to make sure that before falling in love with something, we knew we would qualify for it before I go to try to obtain a contract. So just make sure, push them to go through kind of a pre-underwriting. That's always what you need because the underwriting process is kind of where the buck stops. You can really push your loan officer to take it to their underwriters and say, look, this is what we're dealing with. Here's the travel nurse. This is what he truly makes. Here's his stipends and so forth. You want to have that set in front of an underwriter before you try to bring him a house contract. And then it's just a crushing disappointment if they say no. Also, I think it's worth mentioning that right now, even though I have done all of these things and I have my pre-underwriting as far as it can go, we still are not 100% sure how things are going to go for us. We're at that point now where the lender has told us we are good to go ahead and get a contract. We've been as pre-approved as they can make us. So the next step is to get a contract and bring it to them and then see truly if we actually will qualify for it in the end. So here's hoping. But full disclosure on this channel, it's real talk. As always, thank you so much for being here with us, you guys. I really enjoy doing these travel nurse takeovers. If you're new, let me know in the comments below. Make sure you give the video a thumbs up. That really does help it. Also, if you haven't done so yet, subscribe to the channel, guys. We thank you again, and we'll see you out there.